Wow, that is much more attention than I ever anticipated. Let me shamelessly write it by inviting you to the RTD Discord server. I'm looking for playtesters, translators, and generally people to bounce ideas off of, and if you could help out in any regard, that would be awesome. If you don't want to join yet another Discord server, then always feel free to use GitHub discussions for any sort of feedback or ideas. Okay, plugs over. I'm still amazed at the reception of the 2.4 update video, and I'm really happy so many people are engaged with the plugin. That's probably the first time this had ever happened. In my view, RTD was always like this background plugin for actual game modes. And of course the update doesn't intend to change that, RTD stays in its place, but I wanted that place to become a bit more pronounced and polished. And I see the response to that was very positive, but there were criticisms that I found myself addressing repeatedly in the comments, and they really just deserve their own video. And that is needed because the update video didn't show a lot of things. It's basically a summary of a reference spreadsheet of the actual changes, and I just lost some points in between for the sake of brevity. So let me dig those back as I address some of the criticisms. And let me start with the most broad one. Why? Who is this for? People who like RTD don't care about balance. Don't fix what isn't broken. So the thing is, RTD is broken. In fact, it's inherently broken. It's a bullshit mechanic that rewards nothing but luck and being able to type 3 letters. So let me put this straight. Fixing RTD is beyond mine or any other person's power on this planet. It will continue to be absurd. It will continue to be broken. Will there be a different vibe? Will there be less jank? Well, that is kind of what I'm aiming for, but let's keep those two topics separate. So what if you like the jank? Well, this is where opinions start to differ. I like jank in many things, but RTD's absurdity should come from the randomness factor, not how badly something is implemented. Sure, it's funny, but there are only so many times you can be turned into an ice statue with nothing to do for 25 seconds before you just start to kill blind. My point is those same things you might consider jank and fun can be implemented in a non-janky way, while still retaining the same fun factor, or in my opinion even adding to it. Fixing a perk which is badly implemented is only addressing the bad implementation, and nothing more. Okay, let me finish this by saying there are 82 perks now in the official RTD, and the jank fixes affected less than 5% of them. Now, on the other hand, balance fixes. Okay, that's like 30% of perks. But still, why bother? I just said that RTD cannot be fixed, so what's up with that? Well, as I mentioned in some replies, balancing itself was never my goal. My goal was to make sure perks are fun to have, even the bad ones, and that perks are fun to fight against. Sure, this does align with the definition of balancing, and I would be lying to myself if I didn't call it that. But I believe the important distinction is that I try to roughly keep powerful effects as powerful and bad effects as bad. And this is where you call me out on my bullshit, but do notice that every effect received side grades rather than nerfs or buffs alone. For example, PowerPlay got a speed boost, and Bat Swarm is now protected by overcharge. Okay, Team Criticals got a nerf, but it was superseding Criticals, so it had it coming. In some cases, side grades were not possible, for example Explode or Smite, so I opted into overhauling the effect, but still retain the same kind of idea, to I guess a subjective extent. So to summarize, perks can be overpowered or downright awful, but gosh darn it, they can be implemented in a way that is more fun to everyone. And this brings me into the topic of PowerPlay, which I'm gonna start by showing everything that the update video didn't show. I think a lot of people missed the speed boost, since there were quite a bit of things going on in the showcase. But yeah, it's there to help you close the distance to enemies and basically get to front lines faster in case you happen to roll PowerPlay further away from the action. One hidden mechanic is that you get slightly extended melee range. That is because people will be running away from you, and we all know how melee hit registration works over netcode, so hopefully this will somewhat make up for phantom hits, as long as you play as if you had normal range. Okay, let's talk about the knockback, and first I wanna say that the video did show an extreme example of this, where you were against the entire enemy team at once and there was a heavy constantly shooting at you. Contrary to what it may seem, you don't get any extra knockback, it's just the same normal stuff. In fact, it's technically less, since the only knockback that can be dealt to you is the one which requires players to aim. This means that you get high air blast resistance, and sentries might as well not be there. Well, actually level 3 sentries can contribute with rockets, but rockets alone. I also want to point out that even though I died in the showcase, that's not gonna happen in practice unless you're low on health to begin with. Or, like in the showcase, the entire enemy team is ganging up on you. You might have also noticed that once I took a swing, the heavy was able to push me back very easily. This is on purpose to make your attacks more deliberate, because every time you swing, you lose footing for 1 second and begin to slide on the ground, which in turn also means you're more susceptible to knockback in that brief time, so swinging randomly isn't gonna get you anywhere. From the visual side, one thing I failed to show is the pulsating overlay, so enemies do know something menacing is coming. But there's more. From all of the classes, Scout and Heavy have unique behavior during PowerPlay. For Scout, knockback is instead replaced with a slowdown, and it's nothing too great, but enemies will have an easier time running away from you. The duration of the slowdown is dependent on the damage received divided by 50, so a headshot, for example, will slow you down for 3 seconds. There is also a minimum damage required to trigger anything, so you don't have to worry about afterburn or random stray bullets. For Heavy, well, he is slow, he doesn't really need any other debuffs, so he's completely resistant to knockback as a whole. I hope you can see that these weren't just afterthoughts and a simple strip to melee. The perk did go through a few different implementations and some internal playtesting until I decided on something. And as I mentioned in the update video, that's not the end of it. One stipulation when deciding on effects is that I am unable to simply give a player a list of everything a perk does and expect them to read it. This knowledge has to naturally emerge from gameplay, and players must be able to either find it out themselves or have the effects work more in a supplementary way, which allows them to be more obscure, like the extended melee range of PowerPlay. So everything that is decided upon must keep those points in mind. A few words about Godmode. Yes, you now have to be on your toes some more. You can't just fire a rocket into a group of enemies without expecting them to fight back a little. But I think some people underestimate just how much of an advantage the first hit is, and you are fully dictating the terms of that. You can choose to engage in a fight or not, you can pick off enemies, you can leave them for later, you can prepare the attack to kill them instantly or at least as quickly as possible, or just play passive altogether and heal teammates or disrupt enemy sentries. And if a fight does break out, you do have a very high damage resistance, you're gonna be fine. This opens up so many doorways to interesting plays that it was difficult to pass up. It makes the perk less brain dead and rewards players who are able to escape you by giving them a chance to retaliate on their own terms. With the new strip to melee, one concern I've seen is how much it favors you now. In reality, it only adds to the randomness of the effect. Sure, rolling it somewhere indoors is easy mode, but the perk basically becomes the old one if your weapons are deep within enemy lines or flung off the map entirely. That is, unless your teammates can help you, which only makes it that much better. Some concerns for invisibility is that players are now able to spot you easier. That's technically true and is what I said, but in practice what this mostly means is that enemies are now alerted that there is someone invisible running around. The particles that appear don't follow you, and it's basically impossible to get a sense of direction from those, especially when you are speed boosted. What about Stalemate breaking? RTD is not gonna help you with that in the first place. It has the same chance of buffing the enemy as buffing your team. However, suppose RNG Jesus favors a single team this round. Stalemates are still gonna break just fine. Now, if you, like many others, thought of class wars engineers, then come on, that's not on RTD to solve this. Still though, given what I said in this video, PowerPlay may be up to the task after all. Let me also add that there's a perk called Powerful Hits, which now works against buildings. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Alright, I think I managed to add some much needed context. I understand that I cannot cater to everyone, And whether you liked or disliked the update, I hope you found this video informative nonetheless. There were additionally a lot of changes under the hood, which made this whole endeavor that much more complicated, but the difficult parts are now resolved. And I wish to continue working on the plugin, preferably with your help, so do check out the Discord server if you weren't convinced at the start. In conclusion, the final thing I want to say is thank you for all the traction. It really validated the work I had done over the last few months, and the whole experience was just amazing. That's the first major update since 2018, and to be honest, the TF2 community did not deserve such a hiatus. I hope we can stay in touch. Bye.